Hello, this is RunningRobert, and today we're going to be talking about the Inovio Pharmaceuticals INO Precigen approval and what it means. Date is the 18th of August, 2025, and last Friday we heard that Precigen got approval, and the disease is pretty much in the same indication that we have for our company. So we are going to kind of look at the bullish and the bearish parts of everything that's going on. So I generally follow small cap pharma. I do games. I do a little bit of everything. So if you like what I'm doing, hey, please like, subscribe, or super thanks. All of those help, and thank you. Disclaimer is I own stock, so I did buy it at $1.33 after my first video on Inovio, and options at $2 for the 20th of February. So bought my options at 20 cents. So I did sell half my options, sold them at 50 cents a piece, and I sold 3/4 of my stock to break even. So I am keeping the rest through whatever happens at this point, but I am free rolling, which is generally how I try to play. I'm an amateur investor, and any advice given should be followed by own due diligence, and any information given is valid for today, the 18th of August, and the slideshow will not be updated. But as always, new news, new slideshow. So what happened? They got approval. Okay, that's simple enough. They will most likely be rolling out sales in 2025. The stock did surge around 70 to 8% on approval, but came back down to under 3 by the end of the day. But that's still a $800 million plus market cap. And that is for approval of a drug in the same or for the same indication. So that should tell you, hey, this market should be a lot bigger, or Inovio should also be a lot bigger. The FDA did not ask for a confirmatory trial, which is very important later. And so what does this mean? So overall, we knew approval would most likely happen minus some manufacturing issues. So this is fairly expected. We were told that we would get our decision in August 2025. And my hope was that we would get the rolling submission and the priority review discussed at that time before approval, because approval was supposed to be, I think, August 27th. So I was hoping we get our stuff first, and then we'd be able to roll with, giving them a little bit of an advantage, but nothing huge. So is their drug better? And that is hard to say. So Precigen might require a surgery or two during the 12-week treatment process. That is pretty much if they see any polyps in that time, they get rid of them. Based on the 1-year result, half the patients, that's 50%, had a complete response for a year after this, but that dropped down to 43% after 2 years. So Inovio, the first year only had a 28% complete response, but 50% after 2 years, and the companies led us to believe that the third year data also continues the trend of improvement. So this is a good case of you're not sure, because one drug works maybe quicker, but it might wane in the later years, where Inovio seems like it has a drug that will get slow to start, but will finish strong. So we'll see how that works in the market dynamic. So the bear side is this reduces the chances to get a rolling submission and a priority review. Now that could extend the approval date to somewhere in the end of 2026, early 2027. And the biggest reason I sold this company does not have enough cash to make that date. And of course, then again, Precigen has a chance to treat more patients, but that's not the worst thing. Now, let's talk about being first to market. Sometimes it doesn't matter. So we're going to talk about two companies here. So Bluebird Bio was first to market for the beta thalassemia drug. Wasn't able to market it correctly, and it was overtaken by competitors. And I don't even know if Bluebird exists anymore at this point. Biogen had its spinal SMA drug. That was first to market, and it's still having a lot of success for that. So, however, other drugs have entered the market, and sales have been over $1 billion a piece for each of them. So I think Biogen's last year's sales were 1.6, 1.7 billion. The other two companies that have drugs in the market, $1 billion a piece. That is a $4 billion market, and that is a rare disease. Population size for that is between 9,000 and 25,000. Our market population, 10 to 15. So overall, there's definitely the population to handle two companies. That is not an issue. So we're in good shape there. So the bullish side is, we still get both. We get the rolling submission and priority review, and we can get to market mid-2026. The FDA does not ask for a confirmatory trial, which will save us some money and prep work of having to do that. And then, let's just say, hypothetical, with a 50% complete response rate, if there's 14,000 patients on it, that would leave 7,000 patients, which at rare drug disease prices go between like 200 and 600,000. So I'm just using 400 because it's right in the middle. So 1,000 patients would be 400 million. That is pretty much, like I said, I believe there is still the patient population out there. I am not very worried about that. Even if we were to get 100 people to begin with, that would be 40 million. That would cover the company for a year for sure. So, and then of course, we don't hope this, but it is what it is. The Precigen treatment might have a time limit. So I don't know if they're going to give us third or fourth year data ever. They might not. I wouldn't if it is continuing to decrease and it's a short-term fix, but that is where we're going. So overall, like I said, there's some good news in there and some bad news in there. I believe there's still a market there for the drug, but the picture is not quite as bright as before. And this did add a high amount of risk to the stock for the reasons I mentioned below. I have de-risked myself from it. So again, I am not planning to sell anymore at this point. I will continue to hold. And if they do have an offering or something, maybe I take a nibble. But thank you very much for watching and listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.